Hello, good morning, and even good afternoon. Today, I have brought another new chapter. This is Human Rights and the Age of Inequality. It is written by Samuel Moen, and this is an essay. This essay is put in the class 12 or in grade 12. Human Right and the Age of Inequality is an essay written by Samuel Moen. It deals with the drastic mismatch between the egalitarian crisis. It demands human rights supplements but not a substitute. The writer shows that the human rights movement is not equipped to challenge global inequalities. He starts the parable of Croesus, the rich man who enjoyed and he wanted to keep all in his possession. He wanted all the people equally rich, happy, enjoying like him. This is a parable story that gives the moral lesson. He funds them. He funds health, food, water, and even paid vacation to all the people of his position. This parable gives a message that a few modern people enjoy such benefits of human rights. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights was in 1948, and its goal was to give basic elements and entitlements that human deserves. It has become late for the mobilization of the social and economic rights promised by the Universal Declaration. We live in Croesus world, and Croesus hates repression. Croesus views war as horror. He never accepts the police state. He glows with outrage when the war is torture is mentioned. War's torture is mentioned. He agrees that cruelty is the worst thing we can do. So-called social rights matter deeply to him. The gap between the rich and the poor is absent in the Universal Declaration. According to its first article, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. But nothing in the scheme of human rights rule out of Croesus' world. Croesus' willing provision of a floor of products protection seems immoral and flawed. Human rights have been seen with the most massive inequality. Human rights are comparatively with inequality. Human rights in the age of national welfare were heroic after the World War II. The writer says that America never got as far in answering the welfarist imperative as European nations. The human rights offer a modest stop rather than hope. The assertion of human rights in the 1940s is the best understood. Franklin Roosevelt brought a second Bill of Rights, which included socioeconomic protection. His highest promise was not a favor of protection for the masses, but the end of the ceiling on inequality. There are gaps between two sorts of countries, rich and poor. There are political excessive violence and repression. Inequality has been contained in human affairs. Human rights movement is not up to the challenge. It is lacking nothing but a hammer that treats everything like a nail. Global socio-economic justice would require redistribution under pressure from the rich to the poor. The national welfare of floor of protection came linked to a ceiling of inequality. Human rights movement has been stigmatized as repression and violence. It has never brought a sense of fear for protection and redistribution. It does not look like the human rights movement. The great power politics does not protect basic human values. The human rights advocates do not know how to stigmatize inequality. Inequality grows, and someday its opponent will rise. The common fate of all is the fate of Crucius world. The writer has brought the history of human rights and has displayed the condition of inequality between the poor and the rich nations in the case of human rights. In short, this essay has captured the history of human rights that started in 1948. There are so-called human rights movements in the world. These all human rights movements are only for the rich, only for the Croesus world. That Croesus is a parable. That Croesus was a king-like person. He was enjoying his power. He was enjoying his life. He was enjoying his property. He was in the free from any torture, any problems, and he wanted to manage everything for his people. But he did not know what happened to the poor, what happened to other people who did not support him. In the same way, rich countries in the world are not properly acting for the equality of human rights to the poor nations. So there is a great ceiling of rich and the poor. Poor people are still in the repression, still in the violence, still in the stigmatized condition. They are dishonored, they are disrespected, they are not given equal rights, they are not properly treated, they are not just properly behaved. And there is a slogan of equality, justice, of human rights, but that slogan never comes in true use, in real use of the life, in the protection of human rights in the poor nations, in the poor, not only nations, even to the poor people. It is only for the rich. It is only for the rich people. It is only in the slogan. It has not come in the practical use of life. It has never brought any sense of here to for the protection and redistribution of human rights to the poor. It does not have any real movement. There are so many challenges. These challenges of human rights have not been met by the concept of the present. So human values, basic human values are not protected by the just human rights. And then inequality should be stigmatized. Inequality should be disrespected. There must be brought equality. But even those people who are fighting for human rights, who advocates for human rights, do not know how to stigmatize inequality, how to end the inequality, how to manage equality. So this inequality is growing day to day, and this growth of inequality someday might bring its opponents, its rivals, and its enemies, and there may come a killer of enemies and of these inequalities. When these inequalities will come, and then there will be the different situations. The concept of human rights must act in real world, real life situation, real support of the poor people, support of the poor nations, and should not be always threatened with the power politics. Roosevelt was the best person. He wanted to bring the Roosevelt, right? And Franklin Roosevelt, that is American president. He wanted to bring in this equality. He wanted to minimize the ceiling of inequality of the poor and the rich, but that did not bring even the solution, right? That did not come in real life, right? Though he brought the second bill of rights, that was almost for the creation of equality, but it also failed to bring the equality. The real first article, whatever is said there in human rights article, that man is born free, he is born free of any just torture, he is always equal with his dignity, status. All these things are only there in slogans, but in reality, in real use of life, in practical use of life, they have not become, these articles, these principles, these values have not become true in real life. That's why the concept of human rights, right, and inequality, age of inequalities, going on and on. Though there are a lot of large sounds, big sounds, okay, volumes of humanities, human rights, equalities, and everything is going on in the world, but these things are not coming in practical use. So there is a great inequalities, age of inequalities that is coming on, going on, happening throughout the world. Equality, human rights concept, human rights values are only for the rich people, only for the powerful people, only for the powerful nations, only for the rich nations, only for superpower, and not for the poor people, not for the just powerless people, not for the powerless nations and helpless nations. They are always repressed, they are always just they just suppressed, and violence is going on everywhere. So the principle, basic principle, real value of human rights, real concept of human rights are to be redefined. They are to be brought in the real practical use, and then only the concept of true human rights principle and these movements can meet the challenges of human rights. Otherwise, there would be always inequalities of human rights. These inequalities can become a problem throughout the world. So, these are some of the points. You can listen my whatever I have said, and then you can make your own ideas how these key human rights are not properly functioning in the world, how there are two key countries, rich and the poor, in the big gap of ceiling of gap, and just okay, not having the proper human rights. And use some of these slides and that whatever I have used, and then you can understand, you can make the concept of understanding the essay that would be meaningful for the understanding of the essay. Thank you.